Hello and welcome to Your Scoop on Health. In the next 5 minutes, you'll be up to date on all the latest news for your health. Here's what we have for you. You may now have more reason to enjoy that glass of wine. Research shows that wine may actually contain certain health benefits. Next, they're nuts, and we'll show you why those bad boys are actually good for you. Eat your veggies, folks. It appears there are more benefits of a vegetarian diet. Studies show that it can help prevent heart disease. And finally, the latest news in diabetic care. If you're currently living with diabetes, we'll show you one of the simplest ways to maintain a happy and healthy way of living with diabetes. A good friend of mine really enjoys her wine, especially a variety of reds, but also the whites. In fact, she pointed out research from earlier this year that suggested that scientists now say a glass of white wine a day can also be healthy. Several cultures believe that wine is a rejuvenating drink, if not a magic elixir. If you've enjoyed it with food or without, you know how refreshing a glass can be. Now contrast that with recent news headlines suggesting that some white and red wines might have traces of chromium, but that grapes might alleviate heart risk factors. It seems like there is good and bad. Chromium is a heavy metal that can lead to neurological problems, such as Parkinson's disease, chronic inflammatory disease, and cancer. According to a British study, wines from 13 of 16 mostly European countries gave target hazard quotient readings, or THQ, to be concerned about. From the wine sampled, only those from Argentina, Brazil, and Italy showed lower THQ readings. Now with that said, wines in general do have a number of good ingredients in them, including phytoestrogen or phytochemicals, resveratrol, anti-inflammatory flavonoids, and other antioxidants. The following benefits have been attributed to wine drinking, although evidence is not completely conclusive. Which benefits are received also depends on whether you are drinking white or red wine. It potentially reduces stroke, hypertension, heart failure, Alzheimer's disease, atherosclerosis, and the risk of coronary heart disease. It may also increase HDL levels, or high-density lipoproteins, also known as good cholesterol. It can potentially get rid of free radicals in your body, and it can also reduce blood clots and could help fight obesity and even prevent cancer. It can help reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes, cataracts, and colon cancer. It may reduce the risk of prostate cancer, macular degeneration, kidney stones, and osteoporosis. It'll help you keep your lungs healthy and may reduce ulcers, and in women could decrease the risk of ovarian cancer as well as build stronger bones. It can potentially increase lifespan if drunk in moderation. It can aid in digestion of some types of food. Now keep in mind, in several of the cultures where wine is served regularly with afternoon or evening meals, the food might be rich, heavy, or both. Combined with fresh vegetables, wine seems to contribute to digestion. Take out the wine but keep in the same meal, and pure observation shows that weight gain seems more likely. On the flip side, according to the American Heart Association, or the AHA, drinking too much alcohol can raise the levels of some fats in the blood. This may lead to high blood pressure, heart failure, and an increased calorie intake. Increased calories can in turn lead to obesity and risk of developing diabetes. Now, contrast this with their advice on wine, especially red wines. The antioxidants in wine can reduce heart risk. However, any benefits gained might be negated if you are not staying physically fit and are not consuming a diet high in fruits and vegetables, as well as low in saturated fats. So as with most things, moderation is the key. The AHA recommendation is a maximum of 1 to 2 servings, where 1 serving is 4 ounces of the drink of wine per day for men and 1 serving per day for women. Do you think nuts are only good with beer? More and more research shows a positive impact of tree nut consumption on satiety and weight management, as well as a number of chronic diseases including heart disease and diabetes, according to the September 2008 issue of the Journal of Nutrition. Studies show that consuming tree nuts such as almonds, Brazils, cashews, hazelnuts, pecans, pine nuts, pistachios, macadamias, and walnuts 5 or more times per week is associated with a reduced risk of developing both diabetes and heart disease. In one analysis, individuals who ate the most nuts had about a 35% reduced risk of coronary heart disease. Even better, the FDA qualified health claim for nuts and heart disease recommends 1.5 ounces of nuts per day, but few people actually consume this amount on a daily basis. In the 2001-2004 What We Eat in America survey, 34% of those surveyed consumed nuts, but most only ate about 3/4 of 1 ounce, roughly half of the recommended amount, and approximately 60% of the nuts were consumed as snacks. Put down your cheeseburger and eat your broccoli. 2 out of 3 diabetics die of a heart attack or stroke. So, what's the best way to reduce cardiovascular disease? According to the American Diabetes Association, or the ADA, a vegan diet may do a better job of reducing cardiovascular disease in diabetic patients than the diet recommended by the ADA, according to a new study. The study was in part funded by the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, which promotes a vegan diet. For 22 weeks, participants with type 2 diabetes followed either a low-fat, low-glycemic vegan diet or guidelines prescribed by the ADA. All 99 participants had type 2 diabetes. Participants reported what they ate at the start of the trial and throughout the trial. Researchers took the data and calculated scores based on the Alternate Healthy Eating Index, or the AHEI. Scores were calculated at the beginning of the 22 weeks and again at the end. There was no difference in the scores between the two groups at the start of the study. Past research has shown a correlation between the AHEI and cardiovascular disease. The AHEI is a 9-component dietary index used to rate food and macronutrients related to chronic disease risk. The higher the AHEI score, the lower the risk of cardiovascular disease. The vegan dieters saw significant improvements in their AHEI scores, whereas the ADA group did not. The vegan group improved significantly in every AHEI category, including increased intake of vegetables, fruits, nuts and soy protein, cereal fiber, and a decrease in trans fat intake. Both groups were able to reduce their weight and their hemoglobin A1C, a measure of blood sugar levels, over a prolonged period of time. However, the vegan group experienced more significant reductions in both categories. The results of this study suggest that, if followed for the long term, a low-fat vegan diet may be associated with a reduced risk of major chronic disease, particularly cardiovascular disease, the study concludes. Neither diet resulted in adequate intake of vitamins D or E, or of calcium. Patients attempting to follow either eating plan should consult with their doctor and make sure they are getting adequate amounts of these nutrients. And finally, today we will be talking about diabetes, which, according to the American Diabetes Association, affects nearly 23.6 million people in the United States. Now, there is currently no cure, but monitoring your blood glucose level is just one way to ensure happy and healthy living with diabetes. Now, with advancements in technology, the newest meters on the market, like the WaveSense blood glucose meters, are quick, easy, more accurate, and painless to use. There are many factors which can distort blood glucose readings on your current meter, such as blood sample variations, changes in environmental factors, user errors, and manufacturing variations. Some older meters use static electrochemistry signals to measure blood glucose levels, which send a constant, flat signal that typically reads only one of these interfering factors. Now, the WaveSense blood glucose meters, however, are at the forefront of diabetic meter technology. WaveSense meters employ dynamic electrochemistry, which send a waveform signal to more accurately read multiple interfering factors that resist reading errors. This new type of technology is based on digital signal processing and has an advantage over older meters that base readings on either static electrochemistry or optical electrochemistry, the readings that are taken from reflective light on blood samples. And for those who cringe at even the smallest side of blood, you'll be glad to know that WaveSense meters are minimally invasive, requiring a blood sample size of only 0.5 microliters, thus requiring a smaller sized lancet that also minimizes pain. WaveSense meters are one of the fastest glucose meters on the market, taking an average of only 3 seconds to process blood. And finally, in addition to being quicker, easier, and a more accurate solution, WaveSense meters are noticeably inexpensive, leaving both you and your wallet noticeably happier. And that's all we have for you this week. Be sure to visit our website, scooponhealth.com or fitnessdiabetic.com.